Call the meeting to order, the council meeting. Would you all please stand, our roll call, I'm sorry.
Mayor Yanish.
Here.
Councilmember Anderson.
Here.
Christensen.
Here.
Amman.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
Johnson. Dockin. Fagerly.
Here.
DeBleek.
Here.
7 present, 2 absent.
Would you all please stand as we say the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll move right into the additions or deletions from the agenda, or to the agenda. Are there any? Hearing none, or seeing none, do I have a motion for the consent items?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
I'd like to pull the city council minutes of September 3rd.
Okay. Any further?
I would move to approve the balance of the consent agenda.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to approve all the consent items with the exception of the city council minutes of September 3rd. All those in favor? Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. The motion carries. Councilman Anderson, would you like to
Yes.
pull those minutes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to direct everybody to page 7 of the minutes. And it has to do with the motion that was made regarding expenditures over $10,000. And I want to talk about that a little bit, and then I'll have a couple action items for us. One of the comments that was made that evening was that there was an unwritten policy that all items of capital expenditures came before committee before the money was expended. And I didn't remember that. So I went through 2009, 2010, and through August of 11, and didn't find any mention of that sort of thing coming to the committee. So you might say, well, maybe we didn't do anything because that was during a period when we had budget cuts and unallotments and LGA reductions. But in fact, in 2009, we bought 5 police cars, 1 police pickup, 2 waste treatment pickups, and a tractor. And in 10, we bought 5 police cars, police pickup, a public works, 2 public works pickup, and a truck for the waste treatment plant. So I think we were operating with some bad information. The other piece of bad information that we had was it was stated that in the capital improvement plan there was $200,000 allocated for gateways for the next 5 years. That's not what's in the budget. It's $200,000 for the next 3 years. So we had some bad information. And based on that, I'd like to move to reconsider the vote, whereby all expenditures over $10,000 in vehicle equipment replacement program and capital improvement program be presented to the appropriate committee, and that these expenditures then go to the full council for approval prior to any checks being issued for items in the vehicle equipment replacement program or capital improvement program. And what that'll do is will allow us an opportunity to talk about it. That's all that does. So we need,
I'm sorry, talk about it at the committee level?
no, it's got to be here.
Okay.
But we need a second.
Second, but could you repeat it, please? Repeat your motion.
The motion is, in light of the information that I just presented, I move to reconsider the vote and then on what we voted on. You want me to read all of that again?
No, so you're just asking us to take a new vote on?
All I'm asking at this point is to reconsider that. That opens it up so we can talk about it. That's all that does at this point. Then motions can be made after that.
So part of the minutes talk about you talking about wanting to do that during the budget process, but you're talking about discussing that again tonight, right now?
Talking about it right now.
Okay.
You have a motion and a second?
Yes.
And we have, would you read the motion to us again?
The motion is quite simply to reconsider the motion listed on page 7, where all the expenditures over $10,000 in the vehicle and equipment replacement program and the capital improvement program be presented to the appropriate committee, and then that these expenditures then go to the full council for approval prior to any checks issued.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Councilman Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also recall that many times in the past few years, we decided that when a motion was made and we voted on it, whether it's 5-3, 6-2, 7-1, 8-0, that we would stand by that motion. I understand, I guess I don't understand Dennis, other than being poor losers or sore losers. I just don't understand it. It's common sense to the motion that I made and we passed. It's just common sense. Let's have the council be reviewed on every expenditure made over $10,000. I mean, I do it in my business. We don't see it until after the money's spent, the check is made. It's just common sense. I would speak against this motion.
Councilman Anderson.
This isn't about winning and losing. It's not. This is about the city. And I agree that we move forward, but what I'm concerned with is some council members may have made a decision with incorrect information. That's my concern. That's my sole concern, is that we didn't have the full information.
Councilmember Nelson, I'm sorry. Did you have a question? Do you have one, Rick?
I've got one. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I see where you're coming from, Dennis. Finance Committee allocates money for capital improvement, and then the administrator goes out and buys. But what's wrong with knowing in advance what she's buying until after it happens? You know what big piece of equipment we're buying now in the next few months? I just want to know ahead of time what we're buying.
I guess.
Go
ahead.
We bought some vehicles, and the former city engineer had one. We didn't know she was getting one, and then she was driving it to Renville.
We're talking about a number of different things. Let's remember one thing, too, that we have a vehicle replacement policy that the council reviewed not that many years ago, and because we were concerned about were we doing the right thing. We talked about it, and we said that that policy was okay. Again, my concern is only, did we base our decision on the correct information?
Councilmember Nelson?
Yes. I spoke about this at this meeting. I guess my concern is that we have a capital improvement plan that this council does approve annually, and that we go through that list. We listen to why they need these items, and we approve it. And so, to me, it's at that point in time that we should know why we need them. Now, I'm not saying that, and I believe our staff is fully aware of whether something needs to be replaced or not. So I question, and I think I spoke to how many items on the capital improvements plan are actually less than 10,000. We might as well be approving everything, because I think there was only 4 or 5 on next year's budget items that are actually below that amount. And I think that that's where we should be looking at this, is when we go through the capital improvement plan. It's gone through a five-year look at what we need in this city. And when it gets to that last year, it's this council's responsibility to make sure that those are items that need to be purchased in the following year. And I think that's the place for it, not having to do that and have it come before us to make decisions on what should be on a vehicle or not, or those types of things. I think that's part of this capital improvement plan, and that's what we have staff for, is to bring those items to us at that point in time.
Councilman Christensen, did you have a question?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All of us at the table, including the two missing council people, have only the best interest of Willmar at hand when we make any motion or any decision. And I'm speaking for our constituents now out in the city. I don't like it when I walk down the street or have coffee and someone comes up to me and says, "I see you bought a new street sweeper." I said, "We did? I didn't know that." We need to know and be informed of what the city is spending before it is spent, not after the fact. And again, if common sense tells me you're going to review this, what if the economy turns in and we need to review? We'd have to review it. We didn't have the money, but it's only because we have the best interest of Willmar, and I think it's in the best interest of my constituents in Ward 2 to know what the city is spending. They can watch it on TV. It's presented at a council meeting, through finance or through public works, whatever's being bought. They can see what we're buying, and then I'm not surprised when I go down the street and somebody says, "Did we know? We bought a new gravel truck or a 1/2 ton or a street sweeper." I don't see why you want to hide this. What's the reason for hiding this from the public? I don't understand it.
Councilman Anderson.
I have a question for our parliamentarian. I think that we're getting off. I think what I brought up was just, should we bring this back up for debate? We're debating it. My question is simply, should it be brought up for debate? I think that's what the focus should be. Am I right, or is everything fair game? Neither Robert or Kevin, I don't know.
Go ahead.
A motion to reconsider is debatable, and it's a motion to reconsider. So we can do the debating right here.
Okay, all right, that's fine. I was just trying to simplify things.
Councilmember Nelson.
I listened to Mr. Christensen, and I think we do have a responsibility to the citizens. But you bring up that street sweeper on a regular basis, and that is an issue with you. I think you should have known, and this council should have known, that it was on the capital improvement plan. I think I remember the discussion as to why it was necessary to do that in-house. And I don't know why we keep going back to that same thing. I think it is our responsibility to know what this city purchases, but I don't think it needs to be done. I think that's part of that capital improvement plan. If we don't know why something's on the 2014 capital improvement plan, then we better know that, and we should be able to explain to constituents why we are purchasing the things that we do. But that's where the explanation lies, not on a month-to-month. We get a checklisting, we approve that. Yes, it's after the fact, but it has been approved. I think that we need to be looking at a bigger picture, and we should be able to explain to our constituents. But that's our responsibility to know what's on the 2013 capital improvement plan, the 2014 capital improvement plan. And if we don't like it, then that's at that time where that discussion should be taking place.
Councilman Bleak.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's, the capital improvement plan, that's where all these items are listed on. They're on there for 5 years. And we have a vehicle replacement plan, and all these items are in the budget. They're talked about at the budget time, and we budget for them before they're purchased. And it's our responsibility to know what's on that, what's in the budget, and what's being budgeted to be purchased, not to chastise staff after they go out and buy something that we've authorized them to purchase.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
Well, Mr. Anderson, you talked about
the capital improvement fund and the downtown gateways that was in the budget, the $200,000 allocated after so many years. Whether it be $50,000 for 4 years or $5,000 or $1,000 for each year really doesn't make any difference. At the Public Works meeting, I asked, how did it get on the budget? It hasn't even gone through the committee to be put on the public improvement list. Where did it come from? Now, excuse me, but Bruce said there was an ad hoc, Bruce Peterson said there was an ad hoc committee that recommended it be put in the budget. What ad hoc committee? I wasn't aware of any. I thought it always came through Public Works. City Council made a decision that all the capital improvement funds were categorized and prioritized. Now all of a sudden there's an ad hoc committee making recommendations putting in the budget. I just question where it came from. If somebody can explain that to me, that'd be great. Who's the ad hoc committee that didn't go through the committee process?
Mr. Mayor, if you'd like, I can answer that question.
Sure, go right ahead.
Last year, when we developed the 5-year capital improvement plan, we outlined the process for the City Council whereby the staff submits projects for the capital improvements. We develop a capital improvements list. We present that to the council as part of the budget process, and then the council adopts that capital improvement plan with those projects in it. And so the staff developed the capital improvements project based on what the staff, in part it is based on either priorities that we see the council that we see from the council, as well as needs that we assess through whether that be equipment or whether that be a building replacement, roof replacement. All of those are assessed and weighed, and that is presented, and that's discussed as part of the budget process. That was the process that we outlined last year for the City Council, and the process we followed last year, and then again the process we followed this year. And so those items are in there, and those items are in there for the council to discuss. And I believe it's the intent of the Finance Committee to have that discussion as part of the September 30th workshop for this year. And certainly then any adjustments to those priorities can be made at that time or throughout or up until the budget is adopted.
Well, that sounds real nice, but the bottom line is there's staff is making recommendations on capital improvement projects. I don't mind that, but it hasn't gone through committee. And now it's coming through committee, and we're already debating it in the budget. The
capital improvement projects.
Charlene, the way it worked before, in the past, before you were here, was it came through the Public Works Committee, and the City Council, where's the capital improvements were, and they were prioritized, and they were put in a plan. And the mayor made the recommendations with the assistance of the city administrator as to what projects were more important than others. Now we're looking at it and debating it in the budget. It doesn't make sense. Something got skipped. Something was skipped over here, and that's my question. And if that can be done, I don't. What else? It's like, what's the problem with having a council person or any council person see the bill before we get it, rather than approve it afterwards? And if it's his comfort level or Audrey's comfort level, she has a request, I'm for it. If they want transparency, I'm for it. I have no problem with it. And to go contrary against this, in all the years being in the council, I've never seen somebody pull the minutes to debate an issue once it was already acted on. I think kind of unusual that we're even discussing it, but I don't have a problem with it. I'll support the motion as it stands.
Councilmember Nelson.
Yep, just a clarification, I believe that the money or the money for the downtown plan, did that not come from the direction of the City Council when we approved the downtown plan? I'm not saying that I'm going to approve that item, but I believe we directed staff, we approved that downtown plan that was presented, and this came out of that. So again, we're going to look at a capital improvement, the capital improvement budget. And if we don't want to spend that money, then that's the place to have that discussion. And all I think staff did was put it in there based off from the recommendation from this council. Am I not correct, Dennis?
Councilmember Anderson.
I believe so. I think one other point that we need to remember, it seems to me that the Planning Commission plays a role in this too, if I'm not mistaken. They go through the capital improvement plan and make some recommendations on that as well. Am I right on that?
That's correct. It also needs to, the Planning Commission also plays a review role as well.
I would call for the question.
We have a motion on the table of which I don't remember what it was.
Well, actually, you have a new motion. He made a motion to call for the question, so that needs a second, and you have to act on that.
Okay. Do we have a second for a,
Second.
we have a motion and a second for the motion to call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
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 It's not debatable.
Did you have a question?
It's non-debatable, I
It's
think.
non-debatable, yeah.
Okay. All those opposed say no.
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 Let's have a roll call.
Councilmember Anderson.
Aye.
Christensen.
No.
Amon.
No.
Nelson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
No.
DeBleek.
Aye.
3 ayes, 3 nays.
Excuse me.
This is just to call the question without debate.
Well, let's call the question without debate. I vote yes.
Okay, so debate's done. So now
No, the motion.
now you're just dealing with the motion to reconsider the motion of September 3.
Is there any discussion? Councilmember Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I might remind the mayor that, you don't have to vote on a tie vote. If it's a tie vote, you may just say it fails.
It's an option.
I don't believe you understood the question at hand. However, we're past that now, and we're going to vote on the motion.
Let's vote on the motion.
And the motion, Kevin, was?
To reconsider that long motion of September 3.
Okay.
Just to reconsider it.
Is there any discussion?
You can't have discussion now.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no.
No.
Another roll call.
Councilmember Christensen.
No.
Amon.
No.
Nelson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
No.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
3 ayes, 3 nays.
It fails.
That's an
Point
option.
of order, point of order.
Yeah.
He should not be cueing the mayor as to what to do at a public meeting. That is totally inappropriate.
Could I hear the motion one more time?
The motion was to reconsider the motion approved on September 3 on page 7, dealing with all expenditures over $10,000 in the vehicle replacement and capital improvement program.
Someone is right when they said that the mayor doesn't understand what,
Well, this is just to allow a reconsider of the vote. There's a tie here, so at this point, if you say yes, then they're reconsidering the vote. If you say no, they're not going to reconsider the vote of September 3.
I would vote no on that. Not to reconsider the vote. I think let's withstand what is made as the rule in previous council meetings.
Then I'll move to file the minutes.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to file the city council minutes of September 3rd, 2013. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. That motion carries. We'll move into the city council open forum. And Mr. Keel, would you like to speak?
I believe I'm going, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'm going to be called upon later.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Nagan?
My name is Glenn Nagan, and I utilize the city range with a fair amount of regularity. I work for Puritan Associates, which is a company that provides training on use of force training and permit to carry training. And I've been doing it for enough years that I'm seeing people come through on the 5-year permit for their 3rd time, and even before that when the permit to carry requirement was for 1 year. And range is beneficial. It brings a lot of people to Willmar because regularly in my capacity as a private investigator and trainer through Puritan Associates. I train security officers, and they're mandated to have training on an annual basis, and so many of them come to Willmar. We have a very, very nice indoor range, because I've trained in Burnsville Pistol Club, I've trained at Bill's Gun Shop in Circle Pine and Robbinsdale, and the nicest range I've ever been in is Grand Rapids, where the U.S. Olympic team trains. But that's the nicest one. We have a very nice range here, and it would be a shame to lose access to it. To give you an example of people that come from the Twin Cities or many miles away, about a year ago, if you look at my Facebook page, you'll see a guy named Kevin Garnett and some former Timberwolves came to Willmar to train with us also. And so there's pictures of that on that Facebook page. People come to Willmar because we have a good program. So I encourage you to do whatever is necessary to keep the range open. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Mr. Eric Holdeen, did I say that right?
That's correct.
State your name and address, please.
Yes, it's Eric Holdeen. I live just outside of Willmar, 1795 50th Avenue Northeast. Just to give you an idea as to who I am, I'm Eric Holdeen. I run Great Lakes Training Group. I also do some of the same things that Mr. Nagin does. When you look at businesses for the Willmar, my business would be in its infancy compared to him. And one of the things that would happen by losing such a thing is you're going to stunt the growth of my business, not to mention some of these other individuals, it's the same boat for them. We will get there, and I'm lucky enough that I'm diversified in other things to get there. But like Mr. Nagin was saying, we bring a lot of people into this community. I brought people from the cities, Marshall, Brookings, South Dakota. These people come here. They eat here, they'll stay here, and then they leave here. Most of these people send other people from that area back here once they see the quality training that we're able to give. And we've got an excellent range down there. I've trained in Burnsville, and due to some of the stuff that's happening right now, I'm forced to start looking to other places to start doing my training. And I've already done training in other places. I would rather stay locally, where my kids go to school, where I'm from. So I'd like your support in keeping the business here rather than sending it somewhere else. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Mr. Hogan, would you state your name and address, please?
Bob Hogan, 2000 Southwest 15th Street here in Willmar. Mr. Mayor and members of the council, I would like to bring your attention also to what a wonderful facility we have down at that range. It's quite a benefit to our community. I've been a Minnesota DNR safety instructor for over 25 years. The DNR youth safety classes have been taught in that facility since before I was teaching. Throughout the 90s and the 2000s, I was the coordinator for all the Minnesota DNR youth safety programs in partnership through the Willmar Rec Department and the Willmar Rifle and Pistol Club. All these classes were taught in that range. These classes for 11 and 12-year-olds is mandatory for anybody that wants to buy a hunting license. Furthermore, anybody that was born after 1979, which I would think would be just about everybody in this room, is mandated to take that class. There's a few in here I see that maybe weren't. But anybody born after 1979 is mandated to take that class to buy a hunting license in the state of Minnesota or any other state, period. A large part of this class curriculum is to participate in actual shooting within the classroom setting. The year-round availability to guide students on their initial shooting experience that formulates their safe firearm using habits throughout their life at that range. This has been an invaluable tool to do that. Over the years that I coordinated these classes, I personally graduated over 1,500 youth and many more adults. Many surrounding communities also use that facility to run their youth firearm classes. In addition to the youth firearm classes, I know that the open shooting down there for the city, for the citizens of this city, anybody else who comes to this city, is a recreational asset that I would feel has more use than a city park. I understand there might be some concerns with some ventilation issues, but in the range facility, but I urge the city to work with the Willmar Rifle and Pistol Club to make the necessary improvements to keep the facility open and to continue to educate and promote safe firearms handling activities. Thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, Mr. Stephen Daleski. I want to make sure and pronounce that right.
Everybody else does it wrong, so that's no problem. My name's Stefan Daleski. I live at 103 Southwest 5th Street, Willmar, Minnesota. And kind of a little point on Bob's there. If you want to hunt in Colorado, you have to be born before 1949 in order not to have a firearm safety certificate out there, too. So this stuff is required. I've been a firearm safety instructor, kind of followed in Bob's shoes, for over 15 years. I did some looking on my list, and I've had 192 kids that I've run through the class and completed. Never have heard of an accident, problems, or anything like that. The instructors in the area are very proud of what we do down there and the necessity. The New London Spicer schools run over 100 kids through their program up there, and they bring them to Willmar to complete the firearm safety training in the range. AG Church on the south end of town runs many kids through their programs. They bring them downtown and run them through the range to complete the course. The Smiths and Raymond run theirs. And I'm sure there's some others around that I don't even know. That's the one thing is we're independent instructors and we're volunteers. We work for the DNR, but we are not paid in any way, shape, or form. All the money that we receive goes to the city, which runs that facility down there. I had a class scheduled for this fall, and I had to call the kids and tell them it's closed. I don't have a place to hold the classes or do the shooting portion. Everybody, regardless if you're a returning service vet from the wars and you want to go hunting and you need the permit, you have to go through it. And I've questioned the DNRs, why do I have to teach a veteran that comes back from the war? And they say it's just part of the deal. You got to see that they can safely handle a gun according to the DNR rules. Without those ranges, we don't have a place to go. We can't do it on the edge of town. Weather, things like that, all winter long, you know, when we're doing these shooting tests and everything. But I've got an NRA sheet here that basically firearm shooting ranges have a long tradition of service to a wide variety of citizen groups and local communities. It's critical that states adopt some legislation to ensure that these ranges remain open for operation, that the range owners are protected from civil court action, criminal prosecution, or other local board, commission, committee, or similar type body action. This thing was closed down without any notice to any of the people that are instructors. They're all showing up here. None of us knew about it till all of a sudden it was closed. The only issues I have are the cockroaches that are 3 inches long that are crawling around in class down there. Can't shoot them. They're too big. You know, if there's a problem, you know, with things down there, those buggers would be dead too. But I have 61 kids on the list, and I'm just kind of wondering, do I tell them to call you guys or the group that closed it down? Because I don't know who closed it down. You are I'm your constituent. I vote for 2 of you, and I need to figure out what's going on with this range, why it gets closed down unbeknownst to us, and get it taken care of. Because there's a group that takes care of it. I know the Rifle and Pistol Club. I'm not a member of it, but I do shoot down there, and I work down there as part of the DNR employee program.
Thank you.
So I encourage you to look into it. Thank you.
I think that you'll get some answers before the evening is over. Thank you for. With that being said, that was for information only?
That was public comment.
Public comment. The Finance Committee report for September 9th, 2013. Councilman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First item on our agenda was the Airport Capital Fund reappropriation request. Staff explained to us that $44,000 was budgeted under professional services for the airport for 2013. There is an anticipated shortfall in that line item due to timing conflicts between adopting the 2013 budget and letting the contract for Eric's Aviation. There's also anticipated expenditures for required engineering services through Bolton and Mink. It's being requested that $50,000 be transferred from the capital improvement budget earmarked for airport tiling to cover the shortfall. Concerns were raised about not completing the tiling project this year. However, since it's been a drier year to date, flooding hasn't been an issue. Following discussion, there was a motion made, seconded, and passed, and I would introduce a resolution authorizing the $50,000 transfer from the 2013 Capital Improvements Airport budget to the Airport Professional Services budget.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to introduce the resolution authorizing the $50,000 transfer from the 2013 Capital Improvements Airport budget to the Airport Professional Services budget. Are there any discussion? Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Amon.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 nays.
And that motion carries.
Item number 2 is the tax forfeited property update. We were talking about a piece of property that was tax forfeited. That everything changed this afternoon. The folks that had the back taxes went in and paid the taxes. So this is, we're not going to do it. And what's the proper wording on take no action, or what should be the wording to close this out?
The item is now moot with their action, so to take no action.
Okay, we'll take no action on that. So that has been resolved. Third item was, talked about some future agenda items. On September 23rd, we're going to have a presentation on the 2012 audited financial statement. And I think we're going to move the discussion on professional services to the 30th, when there will be a council work session. Under old business, there was nothing. Under new business, there was nothing. So unless there's questions, I'd move to file these minutes.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to file the minutes of the Finance Committee report for September 9th, 2013. Is there any discussion? Councilman Christensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dennis, I'm not sure, this last item, you said you were going to move the discussion of professional services to the 30th?
Yes.
Along with capital improvements?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
And I understood.
and just so that everyone knows, that will be a work session for all council members. That way, everybody can get their questions answered on that, rather than just the Finance Committee.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. That motion carries. We'll move into the Public Works Safety Committee report for September 10th, 2013. Councilman Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We did meet on September 10th, 2013 at 4:45 p.m. at City Hall. Item number 1 was a public comment, and nobody chose to speak at that time. So we moved on to item number 2, which was the salt storage facility bid. The construction of a salt storage facility was approved and budgeted in our 2013 capital improvement plan at an estimated cost of $200,000. Bids were solicited for the structure. We only received one bid, and it was from Greystone Construction Company in the amount of $183,450. A bituminous pad for placement in the structure shall also be constructed under a separate contract, and staff is in the process of receiving quotes with the project estimated at $14,250. The structure will be placed on the south end of the Public Works Complex and expected to be completed this fall. After some discussion, a motion was made, seconded, and passed for the following, and I will introduce the resolution to accept the bid of Greystone Construction Company in the amount of $183,450 and authorize our mayor and city administrator to execute the contract documents.
I'll second.
A motion has been made and seconded to accept the bid of Greystone Construction in the amount of $183,450 and to authorize the mayor and city administrator to execute the contract documents. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Nelson.
Just a question. Is that what we're looking at? Okay.
Yes.
Yes? Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Nelson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
Amon.
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 nays.
And that motion carries.
Item number 3 had to do with Lakeland Drive Interceptor / Midwest Lift Station scope clarification. Staff and Bolig Inc., our engineering consultant for the project, have met to evaluate and prepare various alternatives to the scope of the Lakeland Drive Interceptor lift station project. A portion of the sanitary sewer lines was televised, and it indicated that it is in reasonably good condition, except for some obstructions that are proposed to be removed, along with a little repair work. If that is successful, the line will not need to be replaced in its entirety, and an overlay of Lakeland Drive can be considered, thereby deferring the complete reconstruction. The alternative of striping the roadway to a 3-lane with a center turn lane can then be explored at that time. Our consultant submitted 4 options relating to the scope of the project. A summary of these are detailed in your packet here. The committee discussed the options presented, and a motion was made, seconded to pass for the following. And I will introduce the motion to proceed with the remainder of the televising and revise the scope of the project to phasing option 2, that is without the limited roadway construction. That would be at an estimated cost of approximately $4.8 million.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to proceed with the remainder of the televising and revise the scope of the project to facing option 2 without the limited roadway reconstruction at an estimated cost of approximately $4.8 million. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. That motion carries.
Item number 4 was old business. Our police chief, Mr. Weifels, reported the jail census at 102 on Tuesday, and the report of calls for the last 2 weeks were 787. The committee also received information from staff and members of the Willmar Rifle and Pistol Club regarding HVAC modifications to the gun range in the lower level of the city auditorium. The Willmar Rifle and Pistol Club is volunteering their services to assist in lowering the cost of these improvements. Excuse me. The range is currently closed until the necessary cleaning and repairs can be made. After some discussion, a motion is made, seconded to pass for the following. And I will introduce the motion. Actually, the one that we had in our packets was a little bit different than what was made at the committee. It says to proceed with a study to outline the necessary cleaning and bring the information back to the committee. Now, at the committee meeting, which I listened to this afternoon, the motion said to proceed with the study to get someone here to check the lead study as soon as possible, and after we review that, to have the gun club come back. Which one do I introduce, Kevin?
Well, that would now be your option.
That would be my option? I will introduce it as stated at the committee meeting then. To proceed with the study, to get someone here to check the lead study as soon as possible, and after we review that, to have the gun club come back at a later date.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded to proceed with the study to outline the necessary cleaning and bring the information back to the committee. Is there any discussion? Councilman Christensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The minutes here are rather brief. We had I'm sure the discussion was at least 45 minutes, maybe 50 minutes long, and we got a lot of good information from Mr. Donovan Keel, and I would request, if you may, to have Donovan speak to the council tonight and to the rest of the city as to a little bit of the history of the gun range, what needs to be done now to make it safer, and then I'll have a couple comments after that, if I may.
Sure, by all means, Mr. Donovan.
Point of order.
Or Donovan?
Just a question, point of order.
I'm sorry.
Our motion is asking the gun club to come back after we've done the study. Would it not be more appropriate for them to come back and present at that time than now, since we've closed it for safety reasons? We're waiting for that information to come back. Wouldn't it be appropriate for them to come back after we know the information? He did a great job presenting the other time. I'm not opposed to that. I just think that we're waiting for that study to come back, and I think the council needs that information before we go forward.
Councilman Christensen, I call on you to answer that question.
Well, I'm the chair of the committee, and I think I may ask someone to speak if during a motion. If
Is the
I'm out of order,
discussion-
please let me know.
Point of order, is that the discussion between the city council at this time?
Well, I'm trying to look for it, but it would not be Councilmember Christensen. It would be the presiding officer making that decision.
That's why I asked the mayor.
Exactly. You cannot defer that to Mr. Councilmember Christensen.
Well, I believe that we have a right to hear what Mr. Keel has to say.
And I believe that's your right as presiding officer.
Thank you. Please step forward. Introduce yourself and your...
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Donovan Keel. My address 712 24th Avenue Southwest in Willmar here. I'm speaking as the president of the Willmar Rifle and Pistol Club, and I want to try and address a few issues as briefly as I can, starting with giving a summary of what the range is. You've heard some instructors so far talk about what they have done. Our range actually has a very rich history. It was actually originated in 1978. It was the police department who was looking for a firing range where they could practice their own with their own men, but could not afford it in the city budget. It was a collaborative event of the city, the police department, Community Ed and Rec, and the Willmar Gun Club, who came together, were able to raise funds and create something that the police could use for training, that would also be used for the public. They would take in fees as people would come in, both for the classes and also when it was open in the public. The Willmar Rifle Pistol Club donates all of our time. We run the range down there, and we donate all of our time. And it is the city who is collecting all of the fees that is collected from the range down there as well. We had a report in the committee hearing that it was just under $10,000 in fees that the city had collected from the gun range. So there certainly is an economic impact to keep this open for the city's behalf as well. It was so unique how we came together that it was actually published in a national magazine, the American Rifleman, of how the city and the club and the police department all came together. The people that are being trained down there, as you've heard, are going to be the youth, for hunters, for the permit to carry program, and also safety programs for battered women have been down there, or women who are coming out of the women's shelter. They've had classes down there on how to protect themselves as well. It is certainly something that is adding to the community. The permit to carry holders, certainly something that's been very popular. The only reason I would bring that up is it makes this community safer. If you go check with the FBI.gov website, they will say consistently as permit holders go up, crime goes down. So all around, this is a benefit for the city. Now, how this first came up, the problem or concern with the range, or an issue with the range, is the city has hired a company called Safe Assure to go around and check all of the city buildings for any possible OSHA violations. While they were in the range, they discovered that there may have been an issue with the ventilation. The exhaust is strong enough, it's working great. It is the supply air that was missing where the person actually stands to shoot. It was being delivered above them and past them, and it was not actually hitting where it was. The supply vent here is so that it can blow away the smoke and the gunpowder away from the shooter. Inside of the report from Chapel Central, who Safe Assure had come in, they reference a couple of things. One of us saying that, well, we could, if you want, come in and put a whole new system in for $70,000. The fix is much, much easier. The vent that is coming in, and I do have this written in a report here as well, and I've given this to a couple council members already as well, we simply need to move that air vent back 4 feet. The second thing that needs to happen with this air vent, the supply vent, is currently it is coming out of the supply vents and it is filling the entire ceiling above the tiles, and then after it fills the ceiling, some of it is coming out through this vent. The air that is coming out is, according to Chapel, coming out at 110 FPM. OSHA only requires 50 to 75. So we have enough supply. It is simply placed wrong. By moving it back that 4 feet, it will be aimed in the correct direction, and we can also at the same time close that vent off from the rest of the ceiling and just have it come directly from that vent, thus increasing that power. There's one other fix that can be done in there as well. Right in front of the firing line, there are exhaust vents that actually shouldn't be there. They are stealing air from the exhaust as it should be pushed down range. We can simply camp those exhausts. That will allow the air, the supply vent, to push all the smoke away from the shooter. And it also, since we've capped them, it will increase the suction power from the exhaust that is there right now. Chapel also identified that the exhaust is good enough where it is right now. They did say one vent was running at about half power, but they said it is doing well enough because the room has negative pressure, meaning more air is being exhausted than it is coming in, and that is what is required for a gun range. So the solve here is move that vent back. Now, the gun range, we have over 300 members, and it certainly isn't going to be, you know, the type of people that are coming into this gun club are members of the community. They are business owners. They are attorneys. They are construction workers. We have AC workers in there. The club can go in and fix this, and we will volunteer the labor for this. We can come in. We simply need to move that vent back. This costs the city nothing except for a few items for the supplies to be able to move this vent. The club will do it for free. Currently, the range is closed. And we don't feel that it should be. In fact, we question the legality of it being closed in the first place. The only issue that has been identified downstairs by Safe Assure, who was hired to go in there, and by Chapel, is ventilation. Now, there has been other concern about other possible contaminants, and that's what the motion on the floor or in front of your council is right now. But currently, the range stands closed. Why? It shouldn't be closed just because of the ventilation. And it shouldn't be closed because it might have contamination. I mean, we better not eat processed food because it might give us cancer, or we better not walk across the street because we might get run over. You can't say might and all of a sudden close a gun range. There is a legal stance here also. Minnesota, wanting the range, wanting to be behind the shooting sports, has passed the Minnesota Shooting Range Protection Act so that somebody cannot just come into a range, make a claim, and arbitrarily close it without proof. And so far, there has been no testing down there, so we don't have an issue. There is a question of an issue. On the Shooting Range Protection Act, there are 2 points that is going to address our situation. The first one here, if I may, a shooting range that operates in compliance with the shooting range performance standards must be permitted to do all of the following within its geographic boundaries. A little bit later down is point 3. Make those repairs or improvements desirable to meet or exceed the requirements of the shooting range performance standards. That's what we're asking to do. We have a written agreement with the city to run the range. In that written agreement, one of our duties spelled out is to perform general cleanup and maintenance of the range. We have been locked out and are not being allowed to go in and make these improvements. The quote from Chapel is looking at $70,000. We are offering to do it for free. And the Chapel letter shows that it doesn't need to be replaced also. It shows that there's enough exhaust. It shows that there's enough intake. One other point in the Shooting Range Protection Act, talking about closure of the range, except as otherwise provided in sections 87A01 and 8, shooting ranges that come into compliance with shooting range standards and the requirements in 87A shall not be forced to close or cease any activity related to the primary use of the shooting range unless the range activity is found to be in clear and immediate safety hazard, which it has not. Further down, if the shooting range provides evidence that the cause of a proven safety hazard can be mitigated so as to eliminate the safety hazard, the court shall not order the permanent closure of the range or any ceasing of any activity. Chapel, and we have worked with them and worked with other AC people in our club, we have correctly identified the issue. It is a ventilation issue, and we are willing to go in there and fix it for free. We have the labor, we have the manpower within our club, and we can go in and do that. We are asking that we take the locks off the gun range right now because they should have never been on there in the first place. By the Shooting Range Protection Act, it would imply that it would be illegal to lock the range up as it has been right now. Once those locks do come off, then let us go in and fix that ventilation problem. There is a question again of other contaminants that might be in the range. That is why they're asking for someone to come in and test that. But to shut down a range because there might be something there, well, again, this is ridiculous. There's a much bigger problem, as they said, with the cockroaches that are down there. If a test comes out later on that there is a problem, then again, by the shooting range, we are allowed to correct that issue. It is not to be closed, and right now there is a padlock on the range. So we are asking that with this motion that's on the table, which we don't have a problem with. If there's an issue, let's identify it. But our issue is having a padlock on the gun range where we believe that according to Minnesota statute, it's illegal for it to be closed like this. And so we're asking that the padlock come off immediately.
Counselor, how do you see this?
I
have, Mayor, looked at the statute that's being referenced, and staff here has as well. My interpretation of it, based on the way the term firing range is defined in the act, is that that applies to outdoor ranges. I don't think the prohibition of closing a range that is spoken of applies in this instance, and I would defer to staff's judgment on their reasons for taking that action.
Mr. Mayor. Go ahead.
If I may, shooting range or range means an area or facility designated or operated primarily for the use of firearms. In this case here, in the beginning of the definitions, I don't see that it is specifying outdoor or indoor. Unless you could point it out, I'd appreciate it.
I don't have the act in front of me, Mayor. I did take a look at this at the city's request on Friday afternoon. My opinion was that it was not inappropriate under that law to close the range.
Okay. Councilman Christensen?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Scott, you didn't bring it with you?
I don't have it with me, correct.
Do you have a copy you can give it to him?
Several.
You knew that this was going to come up tonight. I can't believe that you didn't. I can't believe that our city attorney didn't bring it with him, was prepared to answer. I read through this also. I have a copy here, and it does not state indoor or outdoor range. I could not find it anywhere in there. It says shooting ranges. I'm disappointed. I'm at a loss for words.
Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
I spoke the other night at the Public Works meeting because I felt like we were putting the cart before the horse. I think their intents are great. I think that once we know what we're dealing with, if there is a possibility that they can come and help with this, that is great. I think we have a responsibility to follow through with the request that was done by OSHA, by our safety officer, by our staff that made a decision that we needed to find out more about this. We made a motion at Public Works to get that done as quickly as possible and to ask the gun club to come back at that time when we know what's going on, and I think that would be the appropriate time to deal with that.
You said the magic word. Has OSHA looked at this?
That's what Mr. Donovan said started the process, so, and I believe that's true.
If I may, no, it was the city who hired Safe Assure, who is a company who is first on OSHA standards.
Why did we have them there? Was it annual?
We have a program with Safe Assure. The city contracts with Safe Assure, and they do essentially pre-OSHA inspections for the city to help us identify any hazards so that we can correct and mitigate any hazards and frankly avoid an OSHA issue. And so as part of that inspection, it was determined that the air handling system was not working appropriately, and that's what led us to this point.
And that is their system that we've offered to repair.
What happens if you're wrong?
Wrong about what?
Wrong about the no lead. Basically, is what you're saying is that there is no lead there.
The OSHA report from Chapel is not referencing anything other than ventilation at this time. The committee has wanted to have someone come in and take a look and see if there is other contaminants that may be in the range. And if there are, then certainly we need to deal with this. But if we are concerned about other contamination that might be in there, then let me ask this question. In the last 35 years, it has been the normal general maintenance that we've been down there. How many people have had any problems with contaminants down there? How many people have gone into the hospital as a complaint? There's none. Nobody's had a complaint of contaminants. Nobody's had any complaints of lead. In fact, the only testing that I'm aware of is one city employee that works there, and my understanding is that he came back with no problem. So is the range closed because of ventilation, or is it closed because it might have a problem?
Councilman Bleak.
Well, as we talked about and you identified it, the range is closed because we got faulty equipment down there. It needs to be repaired. We'd all like to see the range reopen as soon as possible. But we need to look at what it's going to take to repair that equipment, what exposure there is to the city as far as repairing that equipment. And we'd all like to see it reopen as soon as possible. But it's not going to until it's in an operating order. And
I agree that
we need to have the studies done and the building looked at before we can allow people back in there. So,
may I continue?
Go ahead.
Thank you. And I agree, we certainly want to have a safe range. The Willmar Rifle Pistol Club would be fully behind that as well. But the issue at hand is ventilation. That is why it was originally had a lock put on the door. And by this Range Protection Act, it should not have been locked up. The club is willing to come in and fix it, and we are fixing problems that are identified in the Chapel Central report, which I have copies of that as well, where they state that the exhaust is working fine. They state that the supply is more than enough air, except that it's in the wrong position. Now, their solution was to completely take out the entire system and replace it with a $70,000 system. Well, that would sound pretty good to a business owner, but it isn't required. If they are admitting the exhaust is good, they are admitting the supply is good, but they are saying it's in the wrong position, then let's move it back into the correct position, and our ventilation problem, which is what was identified by Safe Assure as the issue, is solved.
Councilman Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With reference to Councilman DeBleek's remarks, here's the Range Protection Act. I've got it in front of me, as you have it also. 87A.08B says, if the operator of the shooting range shows evidence that the range can be brought into compliance with the applicable state law, local ordinance, or permit, the range may not be permanently closed unless the range operator fails to bring the range into compliance with the applicable law.
Mayor.
They can fix the ventilation,
Yanish.
Mr. Mayor. And I would...
Mayor Yanish.
I'm not finished, Councilperson Nelson. I would request some clarity in how this whole thing evolved. I found out, I got a phone call 5 days after it was closed from a gun range shooter. And I didn't know that it was closed. It had been closed, I heard from our fire chief, had gone down and put a padlock on it. Now you would think, being an elected council person, you would think that someone might just email the council and tell them what happened. After that, I got a flood of phone calls. It brings me back to our capital improvements program and seeing the checks before they're written or the items before they're bought. We're not told. We're in the dark here on a lot of items, and it makes me angry. Our city attorney not being prepared to address this, not being told via email, and we get them instantly. I don't understand why we can't get this information. Now, do we have any details at all on why the range was closed? All I've heard is a ventilation problem. I didn't get any details at the committee meeting. I know that Councilmember Nelson asked for them, and I should have heeded her advice. But we'd have no details of why that was closed. It's just the ventilation problem.
Who would we go to?
That was it.
Charlene?
I would refer to our fire chief and ask him, how did this proceed, or how did it happen? He's not here?
He's not here.
Oh. Well, I guess I can't add. Does anybody know how this progressed from the Safe Assure person going down there and then contacting, I don't know who he contacted. He contacted you, or I don't have any idea.
I can review the process. Is the fire chief, Gary Hendrickson, serves also as our safety coordinator for the city. So he works with Safe Assure, who we contract with, to perform these inspections. So he received the information from Safe Assure regarding the ventilation issue. He started to investigate that. Also spoke with Mr. Brizendine, who is the Community Ed and Recreation Director and essentially oversees the activity of the range. learned there was a problem with the ventilation system. We brought in Chapel to take a look at that. We looked at some alternatives to keep it open, such as if we could just temporarily fix, or if we could put in there was a piece that was broken, if we could get it operational. We weren't able to do those. We started investigating, what are the issues with the range. We came to a Public Works, Public Safety Committee, I think about a few weeks ago. I'm looking to Mr. Peterson. When we first came to Public Works, Public Safety, announced we were going to, it was before Labor Day, that we felt we had a problem with the range and we needed to close that, to close the range at that time. It was discussed then. We waited until following the Labor Day holiday. I asked Mr. Brizendine to notify the users, such as Mr. Keel and some of the instructors, that we would be needing to close the range temporarily, and that is our intent, to close it temporarily until we could determine the extent of the ventilation problem. And I guess I would say also, since we weren't quite sure how long the ventilation had maybe not been functioning properly, it was a recommendation that we look at doing some, that we have a company come in and do a little bit of testing in terms of the lead dust to see if we had a problem down there. Because again, we don't know quite how long the ventilation hasn't been working properly. And so that's what we've been trying to do. There aren't a lot of companies that do lead testing. There's one out of Green Bay, there's one out of Illinois. The county, Candy Ojai County, for their range uses the company out of Green Bay. So we've gotten quotes from that company to come in, and are trying to arrange for them to come in and do a little bit of testing for us, determine if, if we have maybe some lead that needs to be cleaned up again, as well as working with Chapel and trying to get another quote to make sure that we have a proper fix to the ventilation system. I haven't seen the information that Mr. Keel references as to whether moving the air vent will solve the ventilation problem. Something we would certainly take a look at. If it's a more affordable solution to solve the ventilation problem, we'd certainly be willing to do that.
Have you visited with Ms. Stevens?
I have not. Tonight is my first pleasure to meet her.
Okay. I would recommend that you do.
Certainly happy to do that.
And visit with her, and let's get this thing straightened out right now, as soon as we can.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you. I think it's all of our intent here to keep the range. Is that agreeable to the council? I mean, we should keep the range open. And we were told at our meeting that the fire chief said that he didn't see any way that this would be open for the coming season. Now, the coming season is what?
November through April.
November through April.
Slightly more than temporary.
That's a lot more than temporary. So I think we need to do, I agree with the motion. Let's get some testing done, like she said, as soon as possible, as soon as we can. Meanwhile, I would like to amend the motion, and it would state that we allow the Willmar Rifle and Pistol Club to go in to the gun range and do their cleaning as they normally do, but no shooting. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
The motion has been made and seconded to amend the motion to have the
Willmar Rifle and Pistol Club be allowed
Rifle and Pistol Club go in and, go ahead, state it.
do their normal cleaning as they always do.
Along with, I'm sorry, what is the rest of the, what is it is the motion that we amended?
This is an amendment to the motion that Ms. Nelson made at the
To proceed with the
meeting.
study, to continue the necessary cleaning and bring the information back to the committee?
No.
It's the one that Kevin has that I read to him.
Yeah.
I'm not sure these two motions should be amended. They're not exactly tied together, but the original motion is to proceed with the lead contaminant study and have the gun club come back after the study results are in. Then you're amending that to allow the Willmar Rifle and Pistol Club to enter the gun range and do their normal cleaning.
That's it. pretty much, yeah.
The intent of my motion was to get this done as quickly as possible, that we find out our safety concerns and our responsibility to this community. That is a public building. We need to make sure, not opposed to wherever we go after that, but we need to clarify what our issues are before we allow someone else to go back in there and do. I don't know that this is something volunteers can do without some sort of guideline. And I would encourage us not to consider changing the intent of that motion.
Thank you. Councilman Anderson?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I think the intent, we're all trying to get the same thing done and trying to get it done in a hurry, but my question would be, if we allow the gun club to go back in, are we subjecting ourselves, and this is a question for our city attorney, are we subjecting ourselves to any sort of potential liability in any way?
Councilmember Anderson, potentially, yes. I mean, the bottom line, though, is that my understanding, at least, is that we don't know. And I have to defer to staff's judgment on this. The public safety authorities that work for the city made the decision that the range needed to be closed because of concerns they had. Now, I looked at this at the request of city staff on Friday, and my conclusion was taking that action to temporarily close the range did not violate the law that's been discussed here tonight. As your city attorney, my advice would be figure out what needs to be fixed and how it needs to be fixed first. The problem with authorizing someone to come in and clean it now is there's no bullet list. If we know that these are the conditions we have, A, B, C, D, E, all need to be performed in the following manner. So that would be my concern at this point legally.
Okay.
Did I have an issue with, or I read somewhere, I can't remember exactly where it was I read it, but I read it where your group would like to come in and clean and do their thing first and then have it tested and see that what they did was right. Can that be a fix?
That is what we were hoping to do as well, is that we can come in and clean this. If there is a problem, then we're on contract for the city to go down there and take care of it. The range should not be closed. Let us have access to it. We can fix the ventilation. We can clean the room up. The option here, too, is the club is willing to come in and do this cleaning for free as well. If the testing community comes in, or testing authority or business, and they do identify a contaminant, then there's also a quote that the city has to pay someone $25,000 to go in and clean this up. The club is offering to do it free. And as to a list of procedures, there are actually two of them that we have in our possession. One is from Safe Assure of all of the OSHA procedures of how to do it, and we also have EPA standards in there as well of what should be done. For example, I can give one. Excuse me. Down in the range, it's always been provided brooms that are down there. They're not supposed to be there. We need to use vacuums instead. That means we need to get a special vacuum that is for just gun ranges. So we do have two lists of the exact procedures. And since the range cannot be closed legally, and since there has not been an issue identified, this is only supposition. Oh, I wonder that, somebody shot a gun in a gun range, maybe there's lead down there. Gosh, I'm going to bet yes. But is it a problem? No, it's not, because we do have ventilation down there. It does need to be slightly redirected, and we can fix that issue. It is within the authority of the law for us to fix it, and within the authority of the contract with the city, between the club and the city, that we have the authority to go in and fix that as well. Yet this lock is on there. I'm cautious of saying this because I don't want to infer anything in bad on this here, but you had asked about the process of it getting closed. I'm not sure if it's called a subcommittee of Charlene, Steve Bresendine, the chief, and Bruce Peterson, and then also Chad. They've been very open with me, and we've been working back and forth, and I appreciate the cooperation of trying to get this done. Yet when I went down there with someone with other than Chapel, to look at the AC problem down there, or the ventilation problem down there, it was an hour later that the red padlock was on there, that we were not allowed to go back in to investigate any further repairs. Well, I'm concerned that why is it on there, not allowing us to go back in? We do want to appreciate the cooperation and hopefully want to continue with that. And it is stated correctly. What we are asking is open up the range, let us do our job according to both the law and the contract, and we agree none of the instructors, none of the public will use the firing range until it is tested. But let us go in there and do our job by the law and by our contract with the city. The lock should not be on the range.
Is there any liability, Counselor, to the people that would be let in?
The potential exists. I mean, I can't answer that there would be or wouldn't be, but there might be.
There might be.
But there's liability in this room as well. I mean, we're only referencing a supposition that there might be an issue, and if there might be an issue, then there might be liability. It's an awful lot of mites to have a red padlock on the door.
Mayor Yanis, I believe in the document that Ron Christensen, I don't think that closing the range at this time is meant for the city to find out what's going on and how we can repair it. I believe the document that he read talked about closing it permanently. I believe in your documentation it talked about going to court to close it permanently. I don't think any of that is being said. I think we had our safety officer for the city of Willmar made a decision that this building needed to be checked out. And it was closed to do that. And all I'm saying is let's do that and find out as quickly as we can and then come back and see what the next steps are. Let's protect the city. Let's protect the community. Let's see what's going on. And then let's look at what's the best way to fix it.
And we'd like to get the gun range fixed as well. We're off.
And if I understand correctly, we may have someone here within a week or two. I think for us to open it up and would be totally wrong after we've been advised that it should be closed for right now until we find out, is there safety concerns? That's an insurance responsibility. That's a city council responsibility. That's a community responsibility. That's what we should be doing. And that's all this motion is doing, is saying, let's get it tested and find out, and then let's work with you to see what we need to do next.
And I agree with the motion to get it tested, but that is separate from the range being closed, because it was closed because of an identified ventilation issue. There's a motion afterward, and we agree with that. We want to run a good range, safe for the public, instructors, and students.
I think we have a responsibility to respect what our staff did and the recommendations from our staff, our attorney, everyone, to follow through with this, get it tested, see where we can go, and work with you.
Councilman Anderson?
You know, I agree totally with our first motion, but I'm getting real nervous about the amendment. Everybody means well, and everybody wants to get this done quickly, and the problem is we got to make sure we do it right. My experience in dealing with agencies and groups, and when you're dealing with hazardous, and I'm not sure what level of hazard we're dealing with, but it really gets sticky, and you've got to do it right. You don't want to make a mistake and make something worse. So I appreciate the offer, but I don't think it'd be in the city's best interest to have you folks do the cleanup. I think that would be best left to professionals.
May I ask cleanup of which? The ventilation or a possible issue?
What this motion is talking about having you go in and clean up.
As they normally do. They don't mess with possible contaminants, Dennis. They don't mess with that. It's cleaning the gun range where they shoot.
Explain that.
Every time the gun range is used, they clean it up. Okay, it's in their contract. They need to go down and clean up the gun range from using it.
Okay, so they don't the trash and stuff like that.
Correct. Yes, vacuum, sweep, whatever it is. That's all they do. They're not going to be messing with contaminants. That's my understanding, and from what you said.
Our city agreement also references lead. It is the club's responsibility to do any lead cleanup, to pick up the lead that is downrange, to bring it to a recycling facility, and general maintenance of the club.
Okay, my point is that I agree that if there is a problem down there, it needs to be closed. Guess what? It hasn't been tested. It has not been tested. I could tell you to walk home because your car isn't going to start. I don't think your car is going to start. You better walk home. You know, we can't just go by assumptions or presumptions. After it's tested, and here's another scenario. What if it's tested in 4 weeks and we've canceled 25 classes and everything is fine?
Then will we have...
You know, then...
It is a financial impact to us, but we're agreeing not to shoot until the testing. But having it closed is affecting 7 different businesses down there and 3 other volunteers.
We're closing it on presumption, and none of us are experts here on the hazardous contaminants that might be down there. Nobody in this room is and the Safe Assure guy, I don't know if he's a ventilation expert. He's the one that said there was a vent problem. I don't know if he's a ventilation expert. But I see nothing wrong with the opening it up to the gun club. I mean, they're down there all the time, and then just to do their normal cleaning and isn't going to be dealing with the contaminant that's possible down there. But I don't see any problem with it, and that's why I made the amendment to the motion. And we can't be running scared here. We just can't be running scared.
In the interest of time, where
Mr.
are we
Mayor?
at? Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Bresendine's been waving his
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see you there.
hand back there.
Mayor Yanish, members of the council, just to point out the reference of timeframes and the use of that facility, we did shut that facility down in the last couple of weeks. We contacted the 6 or 7 users of that facility for the month of September. So we're not talking about a lot of usage being curtailed at this point. The usage for October about mirrors the month of September. So yes, we are inconveniencing a number of users, but the typical heavy season for that facility starts the beginning of November. So I think the timeline that we're talking about can handle what the proposal is that you have been discussing this evening. As for cleaning it, there hasn't been a lot of usage down there, so I would assume that much of the cleaning that they're talking about has probably already been done, unless they had not gotten the lead out of the disposals. I can't speak to that because I didn't go look myself. But if we're talking about the users of that facility, they have all been notified. Everyone that I've talked to has made other arrangements for the month of September. We're in the middle of September right now. I think if you could just have that little bit of patience, I think we can get this thing up and running in a time frame that's going to accommodate the majority of the usage there. So that's my comments. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Thank you, Donovan.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion on the table?
We have
Dealing with an amendment
to the motion.
Amendment first. You must deal with the amendment on allowing the Willmar Rifle and Pistol Club to enter the gun range to do their normal cleaning.
Is there any discussion on that? Is that a roll call or a motion?
Standard motion, so it'd be your prerogative.
Let's do a standard motion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no.
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 Let's do a roll call.
Councilmember Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
No.
Anderson.
No.
Christensen.
Aye.
Amon.
Aye.
Nelson.
No.
3 ayes, 3 nays.
I'm sorry?
If there's another opportunity to say something, I sure would like to.
Okay, we'll give you an opportunity.
No.
Not during a vote, so.
Not during the vote, we can't.
No.
No. But I'll delay casting my vote on this, if I may.
Okay, so the motion to amend then fails. So now you must proceed with the lead contaminant study and have the gun club come back after the study results are in.
Councilman Christensen.
There's a standing rule that says anytime during the evening at this meeting, you can change your vote before the meeting is adjourned. If I'm not mistaken, Mr. Scott?
That's correct.
The reason I state that, Mr. Mayor, is I don't think you understood the motion.
Point of order. Again, Mr. Christensen is trying to cue the mayor. I think that is totally inappropriate. totally inappropriate.
Point of order.
Mayor is capable of making his own decision, and he did that, and it's done.
The point of order, we have a motion on the table, right?
The motion on the floor.
On the table,
Motion on the floor.
on the floor.
On the floor,
We're not dealing.
which we have not voted on as of yet.
That is correct.
And that is,
The motion on the floor that you have not voted on is to proceed with the lead contaminant study and have the gun club come back after the results are in.
can we put a date on that?
The motion maker did not put a date on it. That's my answer.
The motion in the minutes is what you're referring to?
Well, the motion in the minutes was not exactly what the
Would you
motion
read the
maker
motion?
made.
Right.
Will you read the motion?
The motion,
Bob?
if you read the motion in the minutes, it is,
Question, I think you said you were delaying your vote.
I am delaying my vote, yes.
Delaying doesn't, what does that do if we delay it? How long will you be delaying it?
Point of order.
yeah, that's, you're losing control.
Point of
You
order.
can't take comments from the audience.
Okay.
So you've already made one motion. I guess I'll make two comments.
What did you determine that delay means? That's a good question.
Well, there's no vote, so the motion dies for lack of a majority.
Okay.
So I deal with the facts in front of me.
No, but what if I decide at tomorrow to make a decision on this vote?
It's beyond today's meeting, so
You
no.
cannot do that.
And then there's two, I do want to say, and I can't find it right now, but keep in mind, old, long-standing protocols are lost at the adoption of this. So I want to keep that. We need to get an answer to how long you can do that, and I can't quite find it quickly.
I make a suggestion that we take a 5-minute break so you can find it in the book, and we take a recess.
Again, the presiding officer's direction.
Let's take a 5-minute break. I think that sounds right. 5 or 10-minute break? 5-minute break? Let's do a 5-minute break. we will reconvene the county, or the city council meeting. Kevin, did you have something to say on the vote?
If you allow me, Mr. Mayor, I'll read what we have options to do. And we need to learn to set aside the old ways because we've adopted this code. It says changing a vote. When a vote is taken by show of hands, by rising, or by roll call, members may change their votes up to the time that the result of the vote is finally announced. After a vote by roll call has been announced, the member may change the vote only by proof that an error was made in recording it, such as the city clerk misstated. So we no longer have time going at the end of the meeting to vote. Once we announce the vote, that's done.
Okay. Would that allow me to change my vote now?
Well, technically I announced it, so maybe not, but there is no such thing as a delay.
There is no such thing.
For the future, he'd inform me that you can't use that option. You have to vote yes or vote no, or it's true, as someone stated earlier, you can choose not to vote. Those are your three options.
Does the mayor have the choice? Because I made a mistake, quite frankly. I guess that's the best thing to say, you know, is that I made a mistake. I would like to change my vote, but can I?
You didn't vote.
You didn't vote technically, and so I announced it, so in that matter it's closed. Going to follow the rule of law, you would have to entertain a motion to reconsider that motion, and it's an amending motion. I know we're making it complicated, but the call was made.
And who can make the motion? Any of the council people?
Anybody? Correct.
I'll move to reconsider the motion.
Second.
A motion and a second to reconsider the motion, and I will vote.
Oh,
No.
Hang on.
I think I need to restate that, Kevin. Would it be to reconsider the amendment?
Yes.
The motion which is amending the original main motion. So we're just on a standard motion, move to reconsider the amendment to the main motion. That just failed on a 3-3 vote.
You have me confused.
I would just like to ask the reason for reconsideration.
Because
some of the one that we were going to reconsider earlier that failed.
Yep. Except there were, no, it's done.
Run this past me.
Before you right now is a motion to reconsider the amending motion earlier stated that was to allow the Willmar Rifle and Gun Club to enter the gun range and do their normal contractual cleaning.
And a yes vote would have been?
To allow that amendment to be approved, and the gun club could go in and clean the gun range.
Okay. And a delay has no purpose whatsoever in...
It's not an option.
Not an option.
Okay. Vote yes, vote no, or choose not to vote.
Council member?
I really question this council's, what we're looking at. This is a good group of people. It's not like we're talking about, your information talks about closing it permanently. We're not talking about that. We're talking about being responsible to the city to do a study to make sure that we don't have safety issues. Safety issues have been brought forward by our safety officer, by the screening that was done on an annual basis. Why are we looking at putting the city at additional risk by allowing them to go back in there until we get this study done? Let's get it done as soon as possible and allow the gun club to come back and see what we need to do. It is not a good idea to put the city at risk by allowing them to go back in there right now.
It would cost us $100,000.
That's a different subject. We need to find out what we are exposed to right now. That's all. This shouldn't be about, this isn't about closing it permanently. This is finding out, do we have a problem? Why don't we respect that and find it out? Protect this city. That's what our job is here. This is a public building. A concern has been brought forward by our safety officer and our staff, our city attorney, our insurance, and we are not listening to it. Let's find out what's going on and then get back to these people to see how we can get this done as soon as possible.
Mr. Mayor, thanks. I didn't know our insurance was involved now. I mean, if that's the case, we better close down the whole auditorium and don't let basketball be played at noon. Don't let anyone take showers downstairs. Don't let the senior citizens do any exercise.
Well, maybe we need to ask that question, Rick. Is that a question?
Are you asking that question, Councilman Fagley? That we should close the whole building until we have this study?
Well, yeah. They've been there for 35 years.
This isn't about the length of time. This is about an issue that's going on in the building. This is about getting it done and finding out and getting back in the
We're letting them go in and
business.
clean so they can have that part done in case something else has to be done.
You don't see any liability or concern for liability in doing that after the information you've been given?
No, I don't.
Mr. Scott, do you have a concern about liability?
Councilmember Nelson, I do have a concern about liability. I am relying on city staff that has evaluated the conditions on the premises and determined that there's an issue that needed to be looked at. Now, I can't tell you for sure there is. I don't know that there's a problem, but obviously something at the facility caused the fire chief to make the decision that he made and to recommend the course of action that the committee ultimately decided upon. Legally, I think that was an appropriate action to take, but I'm ultimately deferring to his expertise on what was found to be present at that facility.
Mr. Mayor,
Point of order.
we don't have public comment at this time.
Let's vote. Okay, what are we voting on?
Mr. Mayor, we are voting on a motion to reconsider the amending motion to allow the Willmar Rifle and Gun Club to enter the gun range to clean. And the main motion is still pending after this amendment.
And that would be just a regular motion?
They're both standard motions. Your choice on roll call or...
On the amendment, let's do a roll call.
We are down to Councilmember DeBleek.
No.
Anderson.
No.
Christensen.
Aye.
Amon.
Aye.
Nelson.
No.
Fagerly.
Aye.
4 ayes, 2 nays.
No.
No.
Hasn't voted.
No, I think that was
No,
three.
it's 3 and 3.
3-3, Cal.
Mayor hasn't voted yet.
I thought you said aye. I heard aye.
3-3.
I heard 3.
3-3.
It's 3-3.
3-3.
Why don't- Perhaps let us take the roll call one more time, I think, for the city clerk. Try it again.
Okay, the amendment is to reconsider it. Councilmember DeBleek.
No.
Wow. Anderson.
No.
Christensen.
Aye.
Amon.
Aye.
Nelson.
No.
And Fagerly.
I'm an aye.
So we now have 3-3.
Okay, so let's reconsider. You can either break the tie or...
Yeah, I think he just...
That's his
You
vote.
just did. That was
I took that as his vote.
That's my vote.
Okay. So now you're just reconsidering it. That's all the motion was.
We'll reconsider the motion,
The amendment.
the amendment. No, we already did the amendment.
No.
No, they moved to reconsider that amendment to allow you to revote.
Okay, so we were going to...
So there is a main motion, and the floor is open for a reconsideration of the other amendment.
Floor is open for reconsideration of the other amendment. All those in favor say aye.
No, you have to make it first.
Make a motion.
Pardon me?
Somebody has to make a new amendment.
Okay.
It's reconsidered, totally reconsidered.
I'll move the amendment that I made earlier. Did you write it down?
I did, sir.
I'll second the motion.
And it's an amending motion, Mr. Mayor, to allow the Willmar Rifle and Gun Club to enter the gun range and do their contractual cleaning.
And so we'll ask that we do that on a roll call. Or so if there's any discussion first.
There you go.
We'll do it on a roll call.
I'll plead one more time. I really have concerns that we are taking this approach. I think we've heard from multiple of our staff that this is not appropriate. I have a concern about what we are proposing to do. I believe we should follow the recommendation of our safety officer, our city administrator, and our city attorney.
And we have a Councilman DeBleek.
I agree. We have a recommendation from our city attorney, from our staff, that we have temporarily closed the range and bring in somebody to look at it. That's their recommendation, and it's temporarily closed. I don't think we're following our obligations to our taxpayers in the city of Willmar by allowing individuals back into that range to do what they're asking to do. I think it's not, we're not following our judicial responsibilities if we do that.
Can we make another amendment to the...
Sure.
I can't.
I would like to make another amendment that we instruct staff to close the city auditorium until we resolve the issue.
Don't we have an amendment on the floor? That
Second.
Yeah, well, you can string out amendments.
Is this amending the amendment?
Yes, it is. Well, actually, that's a good point. You can amend the amendment, but you can't amend the amendment with a whole new motion that doesn't tie in with entering the gun range. So you cannot make that at this time, Bruce. It's not an amendment. It's just a whole new motion.
City attorney? Agree with that?
I agree. You can string out amendments, but the amendment has to be germane to what the amendment you're trying to amend is. And in this case, I think it is a different motion altogether. It would be a new amendment to the main motion, not an amendment to the amendment. So I think we need to vote on the first amendment.
So that's out of
Which
order.
is,
Let's vote.
So that's out of order on that one.
okay.
We are simple. You're back to allowing the Willmar Rifle and Gun Club to enter the range for contractual cleaning.
Only.
Only. You're not allowing them to shoot, not allowing any other abnormal cleaning, just contractual. What we have in the contract is not clear to me, but that's all right.
Go ahead. All those in, well, let's see, we had to do a roll call.
Councilmember Anderson.
No.
Christensen.
Aye.
Amon.
Aye.
Nelson.
No.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
No.
3 and 3, Mr. Mayor.
And you make me do this again, don't you?
Pretty much all night long.
Well, I will change my vote. I will vote aye. to let them in for cleaning only. That was the vote?
That is correct. At this point, that is the amendment, sir. So now we have a main motion, about 3 pages back, but it's to proceed with the lead contaminant study and have the gun club come back after the study results are in, and to allow the Willmar Rifle and Pistol Club to enter the gun range to do their contractual cleaning. That motion has to first pass, so that's before you.
And that would be a roll call as well. So is there any discussion on that? Councilmember Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, this really puts me in an awkward position. I really liked the original motion. I liked it a lot, but I don't like it now that it's amended. So I can't support what I liked because it got contaminated. Bad word.
Nice move there, by the way. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Christensen.
Aye.
Amon.
Aye.
Nelson.
No.
Fagerly.
Aye.
DeBleek.
No.
Anderson.
No.
3 ayes, 3 nays.
So we vote in favor of
Both the study and the cleaning with an aye vote, oppose the study and cleaning with a nay vote.
aye.
I would make a motion that we close the auditorium to everyone until the study is done.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded to close the auditorium to everyone until the study is done. Is there any discussion? Councilman Fager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can anyone go in and clean then? Anywhere?
No, I think what we're saying is if there's a concern, which has been shared by all of them, then perhaps nobody should be in that building until a study is done.
Any further discussion?
Let's vote.
Roll call.
Councilmember Amon.
No.
Nelson.
Aye.
Fagerly.
No.
DeBleek.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Christensen.
No.
3-3 for the closure, Mr. Mayor.
We will not close the this auditorium. Thank you.
That's 3-4, motion fails.
Item number 5 was new business. Councilmember Amon conveyed the need to prioritize items within the capital improvement program, and also in particular railway crossings are reconstructed into quiet zones. Also questioned was the inclusion of downtown gateways in the CIP. There being no further business to come before the committee, I would move to file these minutes.
Second.
A motion has been made and seconded to file the minutes of the Public Works Safety Committee report for September 10th, 2013. Are there any discussion?
I hope not.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no.
No.
That motion carries. Community Development Committee report for September 12th, 2013. Councilman Fagerly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item number 1 was public comment. Clint Schwitters, rental property owner, appeared to complain about citations he received for violations of the exterior storage and rental ordinances. Most of his concerns were addressed by staff and the committee. Many of the issues raised were related to tenant behavior and were ultimately the responsibility of the property owner. Item number 2, neighborhood improvement groups. Mary Lou Arney presented an idea to create neighborhood improvement groups to oversee exterior property conditions in the city of Willmar. Her primary concern was the downtown area and the city core, but the concept could be implemented citywide. She expressed concern that the deteriorating conditions were contagious and that they stemmed from a lack of education and respect for property. She suggested that neighborhood groups could select leaders who could distribute pamphlets outlining issues and expectations for property maintenance. Contacts made as part of the program would encourage communication among neighbors and would direct property owners to maintain their properties, thereby reducing the enforcement burden on city staff. We thought that the idea had merit, and Mrs. Arney asked us to take the lead in creating a structure within which such neighborhood groups could operate. Item number 3, industrial park land pricing. Staff and I informed the committee that with the additional expansion to the industrial park plan for 2014, a program for land pricing was being developed. Initially, the market is being analyzed to determine a starting point for the pricing system to be proposed by staff will include a process to write down the price of land based on tax base enhancement, job creation, and the provision of community benefits by property purchasers. Steve Rehnquist, our EDC director, presented information from several other states that showed the impact of job creation on the local economy. Another handout dealt with economic multipliers and their use in economic development planning, and they're attached with the report. Item number 4, fairground noise. As requested by Councilmember DeBleek, the committee reviewed past council action relative to activities at the fairground. Past noise issues have primarily come from automobile racing and to a lesser extent from snowmobile racing. The most recent complaints about noise were the result of a concert that was held at the fairgrounds in late August. A letter from Fred Codgelo was distributed. That's attached. Prior to the next racing season, the Fair Board representatives will be invited to a community development meeting to discuss the noise issues once again. And item number 5, going green. Bruce is here. Okay, the going green waste collection and recycling activities scheduled for September 14th were discussed by the committee. Staff reminded us that the city had given $6,000 to the effort. I think we did that also in 2011. And since it was last Saturday, I don't know if Bruce, you want to comment? Have you got any results back?
Mayor Yanish, Councilmember Fagerly, members of the council. As of today, I have not seen any of the results, though it did appear to be very successful. I did see Councilmember Amon working there. I put in a little time there myself and brought some old unwanted items for recycling, but I think it was a good operation. They moved the vehicles through the lines much quicker this year than they have in the past. It was very well organized, and heard nothing but good things from those that were there.
Thank you. That sounds great. Steve, did you want to make a comment? Or?
No, it was fun to get out there and visit people, and a lot of positive response from the people that were dropping off items. They were very appreciative.
All right.
I stepped out there between 12 and 1. It was amazing to see all the old refrigerators, stoves, water heaters. I mean, I thought it was a really good event. The light bulbs, the variety of things that were being sorted. I think it was good for our community.
If I might just add to what you said about light bulbs, that there was over 300 fluorescent bulbs turned in, I understand. I don't have the finals on it, but I understand that there was over 300 for latest and bulbs turned in.
I would say, Mr. Mayor, I was out there for a while as well, and I was amazed at the speed that the people moved through the line. It was much more organized, much better, better reception, and there are a lot more comments about how much faster it moved than it did in years past. So.
Thank you.
All right, and item number 6, there was no further business coming before the committee. We adjourned, and I'll move to file the minutes unless there's questions.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded to file the minutes of the Community Development Committee report for September 12th, 2013. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed say no. That motion carries. Consideration of the agricultural land exemption of special assessments. Kevin, did you want to speak to us about that?
Mayor Yanish, members of the council, you have before you a resolution listing a variety of landowners and projects and correlating special assessments. Pursuant to our comprehensive assessment policy, the city allows temporary exemption from assessments for certain lands that are in agricultural purposes. We mail out a letter to these landowners every August 1st where they must declare that they will continue to have these properties in agricultural uses in the year 2014. Those letters have been returned, the resolution prepared, and the list of those properties with deferments are before you. It is staff's recommendation that we continue to adopt this resolution and defer these collections until future development occurs.
Move to approve.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded to adopt the resolution exempting qualifying agricultural landowners of special assessments. Is there any discussion? Councilman Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Kevin, the values that you have on there, is that tax values or?
Those are the special assessments within that project. If you look at a project, I'll just take the first one, sure. Project 9202. It was in the year 1992, not a street project, probably a sanitary or sewer or something going by. At that point, with those costs, it was $13,005. And they're all that way all the way through. So that's just the value of the bid that was certified for all other participants during that project.
Okay, and then they're exempt from that till?
Development.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Nelson.
Just a question, is this a practice kind of across the state? Do we follow the, or is it just our practice?
It's a practice outstate. Seems like in the metro area they force them to pay, but it's forcing development faster. And it's, I mean, let's face it, some of these you can see were 7402, so that's a 1974 project. That parcel hasn't been developed, so it would have been a hardship then, and really no benefit. If there was a sewer line to an agricultural farm back then, there was no benefit to it. So,
thank you.
So we need to make a resolution.
We need to work on the resolution. Mr. Mayor, we do have an introduction and a second.
To adopt the resolution exemplifying qualifying agricultural landowners of special assessments. All those, let's see, this is a roll call. Roll call.
Councilmember Nelson?
Aye.
Fagerly?
Aye.
DeBleek?
Aye.
Anderson?
Aye.
Christensen?
Aye.
Ammen?
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 nays.
And that motion carries. Old business, is there any old business that needs to be taken care of tonight? Hearing none, we'll move into new business. Is there any new business that needs to be taken care of?
Just a request, I'm just wondering if we can get an email copy of the contract with the gun club and for the gun range, both indoor and outdoor?
Yes, we will do that.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
Just a point of information. Not last Saturday, the previous Saturday, I forget the date there, on the 11th. I noticed a bunch of volunteers from Bethel Church, and they were I think people from Vinci, that were out cleaning up our parks on a Sunday morning. And I had an opportunity to visit with some. I just somehow hope that they don't go by unrecognized for their efforts, and it was greatly appreciated. I expressed that to 3 people. I don't know if anybody else had an opportunity, but if a letter of appreciation could be sent out from staff, that would be very nice. They did a great job.
We can certainly do that. That was part of the 3 local ELCA churches, Calvary, Vinci, and Bethel, had a day of service on September, on the Sunday prior and such. And so they did various projects in and around the community, somewhere in our parks. I had put that information previously in the council's packet and such, and so they did some projects in terms of park cleanup. They also did some projects for other organizations as well. But we will certainly send something to those 3 churches thanking them for their time and volunteerism.
Councilman Blake, did you have a question?
I just wanted to, Councilmember Nelson had asked for the agreement we have with the gun range and the gun club. Let also commit any of these certificates they have or credentials they have for certified cleanup, and who in their organization is certified to do the
We can request that from the club.
Any further new business, Councilman Christensen?
Well, not new business, but a question for our police chief. Speaking the testing in gun ranges, does I know you have one out at the new police department, police/sheriff's department. Does that get tested annually, semi-annually, or something like that for contaminants or?
Councilmember Christensen, I believe that one is tested monthly.
Monthly? And is it from our Safe for Sure guy, or is it from a bona fide contaminant testing company, or?
I wouldn't be able to answer that question. It is managed by the sheriff's department, and they hire the people.
But it's monthly. Okay.
I know the custodians are out there monthly checking the filters and cleaning out the contaminants. But if you're talking about a full-blown certification or bringing in an outside company, that I'm not sure of.
Okay, I'll ask Dan. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Council dates.
Hearing none, I'll go into the council dates, and Councilman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Boy, give us an extra Monday, and we're going to take advantage. We got the regular Finance Committee meeting on the 23rd, and then we're going to have a special Finance Committee meeting for all council members on the 30th. We'll be talking about the capital improvement program. We'll be talking about what the proposed cuts will do to the various departments in terms of their training and contract services and all that sort of thing. And that meeting will be held here, unless I hear otherwise, at 4:45.
And the other one will be held?
In City Hall.
City Hall. Got it. Councilman Christensen.
I've been told there's no agenda for the next Public Works, Public Safety next week.
And Councilman Allen?
Meeting on Wednesday.
This Wednesday?
4:45.
When? Tuesday, Councilmember.
Excuse me, Tuesday, tomorrow.
Tuesday.
Right, it was an on date.
And where's?
Conference Room 1, City Office Building, Labor Relations.
4:45.
May I also want to add that if we have enough time, we're going to briefly talk with Charlene about goals and priorities and objectives. And also the issue of our retreat. So if you want to come prepared with some thoughts, that'd be great. Thank you.
Councilman Fagerly?
No meeting scheduled.
With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded to adjourn. We are adjourned.